Right, folks, Romford Film Festival, celebrating 10 years of the Romford Film Festival, which is absolutely outstanding. And we have just had a section where we showed a couple of shorts and an amazing documentary called Waking Slowly. And now we're going to talk about it. Let's go down the line, make my life easier, and let's tell everyone who you are and what you did on this project.
I'm Andy. Is that okay? I'm Andy. Cool. Sorry.
He does pictures.
That's how professional I
Yeah,
am.
he hates, he doesn't like audio.
It shows how good I am at sound.
Cameron produced it with Andrew.
So I'm Andrew Smith. Yeah, I directed it, shot it with Andy, edited it.
David Ganly. I played Bill in Joe's film and in your film.
I'm Joe. I see. I'm Joe, and I was the victim of this.
I mean, where do you go from there? First of all, I am actually going to take it a little bit further back though. I would like to know from each of you what inspired you to get into this industry and why on earth you would do it to yourselves.
Wow. Shall I start?
Yeah.
Well, lots of reasons, but I do genuinely, in the 1980s I watched, I must have been allowed to be up quite late, watched a documentary. I think it was called 10 Days in May, or 7 Days in May, or 14 Days in May. It's a famous documentary, and it followed a guy on death row. And all I'd seen before was like fiction films. I didn't quite get what a documentary was, and spoiler alert, but it follows the whole story of the lawyer, Clive Stafford Smith, I think his name is, who's trying to get him out, and it follows and he fails. And then he has a scene where he meets the guy about an hour before he's killed, and then they film him being killed, and it just blew me away. You know. So I've always loved fiction and grew up reading books and studied at universities, literature, but basically realised actually I kind of wanted to do fact. I wanted to try and tell stories through fact in the end. So I watch a lot of fiction films, but ended up wanting to do documentary because when it's real, there's an extra level to it, obviously. It was just that thing just kind of blew me away, really. And I think a few days later, our school had a careers advisor person, and I think I said, I want to make documentaries, and sort of forgot about it for 10 years. But then, yeah.
Wow. What was the first subject you had an attempt at as a documentary?
What was the first?
The first subject you took on?
Well, I ended up sort of going into television, so Andy and I worked for 30 years in television documentaries, basically. So in those days, it was very difficult to do what you can do now, which is just make your own. It was £40,000 for an editing kit, and the camera was 80 grand, and it just wasn't, things had changed so much. So, in a sense, you didn't, you start off as a researcher, and you start off as an AP, and then and then you get given jobs. So you can't really remember the one that you went, I want to do that film, and you did it, except it's become possible now, And this actually was a utopian exercise in doing that, without any funding at all. You now have, Andy and I had cameras, and I had a free edition of Resolve Da Vinci. You don't have to pay for. It's a free edit thing, and you can do it in your laptop. It's just changed so much. So the budgets have gone, but actually the freedom. Actually, what Joe says, the freedom to fail, is now we have complete freedom. So it's difficult. I can't remember the first thing actually when I said I want to do that, and then someone gave us the money. I don't know.
And the rest of our panel, what inspired you to get into it and why?
It's a bit strange for me, really. I sort of kind of fell into it a bit, really, because flying was my thing, and I started getting migraines, so that was that. And one of the people that the helicopter company I used to be with was Peter Allwork, who his company's aerial camera systems. So back in the day, it was just like little camera mounts on the side of a helicopter and what have you. So the guy from the helicopter company said, what are you going to do now? I was like, I don't know. And he said, well, you like photography and what have you done? Go and have a word with him. So I did, and he was amazing. So he was a good person to start with, but there were always union problems. So then I had to go back to college and go through all that rigmarole. And then sort of changed. So I started out more in the film side of it, but I got very disillusioned with it, and I really liked working on stuff that was more immediate. and it took me years to get to, probably about 10 years to get to go and do some news, which I thought would be fun. And after about 2 years it wasn't, so I changed again really, and then did quite a lot of drama, DOP on dramas, and then changed into more social action stuff, which seemed to me to have more of a purpose, because it was, I know it sounds a bit odd, but I like the fact that it felt like it was doing something for other people rather than it just being an egotistical thing. So I quite enjoyed that aspect of it. I miss the control that you have on drama, because on something, on a documentary, it's, you know, the amount of times you drive home and you think, oh, that wasn't very good, but you just have to think, well, what else could you have done? You know, and you just have to put it down to experience. But it does drive me mad. So.
And he's a complete perfectionist, by the way.
Hardly.
Okay. Well, you've had to drop your standards with me all the time.
Yeah, really.
You guys
Apparently, as a 5-year-old, I was brought to the cinema to see Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and was in my dressing gown. My parents took us out of bed and brought us to the cinema, and I stood on the seats for the whole thing, spellbound, and shouted, "Oh, such a delighting thing!"
No.
As a 5-year-old.
Wow.
And I sort of have a memory of it, and I think I just realised that film was more real than real life as a kid. That there was something magical, but it was more real in the way that nightmares, the reason we remember nightmares is they're more vivid than our own real life. They just hit you. And so I think I was trying to find a way eventually to be on screen, and in Ireland at the time there wasn't really a film television industry, and I became an actor and went into theatre, and then COVID happened and theatre died for 4 years, and I just went, right, I'm going to change lane. And literally it was like a decision, I'm going to start being a film actor, and something just clicked in that moment, and I just, I went, right, you've 49 years to make up here. So, so that's sort of how it's happened. Yeah, that's sort of how it happened.
Okay. To keep mine brief, and there's a million reasons, but I was a very late developer in this world. But funnily enough, I thought I was into documentaries. I came down. I was an insomniac as a teenager. Proper. People say I'm an insomniac. I think I once went 2 months without a drop of sleep when I was a teenager. And so I would watch a lot of the weird things that were on BBC Two, normally Open University or whatever. But I remember coming downstairs to the front room at like 2 a.m, 1:30 a.m, thought I'll watch whatever's on. And because it was the BBC, there were no adverts, this thing had already started. I presumed, I was 13, I was watching a documentary. And it was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen, and I was hooked. And I even sat there thinking, I have to make documentaries. And then credits rolled at the end, and it was no internet, obviously. It turned out I'd been watching Midnight Cowboy. I thought I'd been watching a documentary about male prostitutes in New York. And then I went, hang on, so they were acting. What is this? How can that possibly have been pretend? And that sowed a seed that didn't come to fruition until I was nearly 20. I didn't really become acting. I literally didn't know you could do it for a living, really, till I was about 18. But weirdly, it was a feeling of real life and documentariness that I have amazingly been able to shake Dustin Hoffman and John Voight's hand and say thank you to them both in my life. I mean, how amazing is that?
Just pick that name up, though.
Yeah, no, yeah. I know. Let me be clear. John Voight was very friendly. Dustin Hoffman told me to fuck off.
And both of them are here tonight.
Yes.
Slightly less inspiring.
It wasn't like I was on holiday with them.
So, Joseph, we got to see Signs of Life. You brought it to this festival, and as you know, we all absolutely adore Signs of Life. It's a fantastic, fantastic film. There are many documentaries out there about film productions that you can see, but very rarely do you get to see one about an independent film being made.
Yeah.
Where did this idea come from, and why did you want to do that, to follow this?
Well, I mean, I'll hand over to Andrew because I think, but we met in just all the silver linings of COVID, really. But just after COVID, everything had fallen apart. You had nothing on your plate. You came to see me in a matinee of Noises Off in the West End, and afterwards we went for a cup of coffee, and I said, I'm planning to make a film. I'm gonna do it. And you sort of said, well, can I come? And I thought, yeah, as if, this real documentary maker. And then on our recce, which was just me and my nephew, on cut out the coupons from the back of the Sun type holiday to Lanzarote recce, I mean, all of 50 quid or something, they turned up. That's my memory of it. And actually, I wasn't fully committed to making Signs of Life till after our recce, which was me, Elliot, and these two. And then I said, how are you making a documentary? We don't know our tits from our elbows. What is this? He said, I'll cut a quick thing to show you how it might be. And from the recce, he cut a 15-minute little teaser that was so beautiful, Andy's photography and his story sense, that watching that, I believed I could make Signs of Life. So watching their thing they shot from the recce convinced me to press go in my own heart and head. I might have dithered. It was the absolute final, so I owe them everything, really. It's so strange that this is the thing that comes out last, but weirdly, it was the push of the snowball down the hill, really. This.
Yeah, I mean, basically, so Joe and I knew each other a little bit, and I'd seen, you did a tweet, I think, or something, social media post that said, I'm going to make my first feature film.
Right.
And I emailed you. Andy and I were in a situation where television documentaries are dying. It actually kind of fell off a cliff. Just after COVID, they shut down BBC4, which is like where we made nice films, and they stopped funding. And the BBC said, we're not going to make any middle-level documentaries, blah, blah, blah. So we were kind of in a situation of, are we going to carry on? The vast majority of people I know my age and experience are no longer making documentaries. They've all done probably much more sensible things. So we were sort of in this, what are we going to do? I just thought, so I've always loved to watch, because I don't do fiction, I love watching you guys, because what we do is obviously try and make a story out of what actually happens, whereas you can make up what happens, and then you've got to make it happen on camera. So I've always been fascinated with that. So actually, I think the deal was, wasn't it, that I just said, if you let us come along, we'll create, so Joe was going to go on the recce, was going to do a Kickstarter. And the bit where you see him on the cliff sitting down was actually, we were trying to do a Kickstarter, weren't we?
That's right.
And we were sort of improvising, tell us what the film's about. So that was going to be it. And I think by the end of the first day, and then we went for a meal in the evening, and I was sort of saying to Andy, actually, this is sort of really interesting, we could do more, So what was really interesting was, and then we were there for these really intense, brilliant 3 days. We filmed so much stuff. It's what was interesting right from the start was the idea of what we've been talking about, actually. So the relationship between fiction and reality. The idea of how do you create stories from things you've made up, and how do you create stories from things that you filmed which happened. And actually there's a great, it's not all as simple as that. There's lots of ways that you have to create a story from messy reality, and there's lots of ways in which actually you're taking from what exists. And a very simplistic idea might have been, Joe speaks a lot and so does the Bill character, and SJ's are very silent, but it's actually much, much more complicated than that. But people put in elements of themselves. So I think by the end we sort of said, I think we should carry on. So we gave you the footage for the Kickstarter. The Kickstarter got Joe the money and a bit more. Joe gave us £500, which became the budget for our documentary, which we spent on our flights for the main film, basically. And at that point, we were just sort of saying we had the freedom for fail, because we've always mostly worked in a situation where we're commissioned. So we have a commissioning editor, who might be a BBC commissioning editor, who's expecting something, or a funder or something, and we never had, that complete freedom. We didn't have to create anything really. We'd sort of done what we said.
Yeah.
We did a little bit of publicity for you, and then so we could just see what happened really. So this was our sort of freedom to fail job, basically.
I think though, if you had shot it in Wigan, I might not be.
No, that's right.
Lanzarote got me.
I remember I rang Andy and said, "You don't know Joe, he's great, he's fantastic, he's brilliant, blah, 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 blah." You know, because we're not going to get any money for this, you're going to have to self-fund. And I think I said, he said, "Where is it?" I said, "Lanzarote," and Andy said, "I'm in." So that was it.
That's how I got my cast as well. So.
A lot of my family are from Wigan as well. So.
The reason not to go.
What kind of challenges get thrown up with a movie where you're essentially filming a movie that's being filmed at the same time? So for our documentarian side of it, what kind of challenges was that for you? But then for acting alongside that and directing, you know you've got another crew that are filming you. What kind of challenges does that give you?
I mean, first of all, can I say actually that was one thing, it's very rare really, you might be brought in to do behind the scenes. Specific day where just come in for a couple of hours because we've got a big explosion or talk about the makeup or something. Actually, so David, SJ, Joe, everyone were brilliant at letting us come along. I think on the day one, I think I got in your shot twice, I think, or Elliot's shot. It's like people going, fucking hell. So, yeah, we learned, you know, we're so used to going in, obviously, and filming people. We used to think, oh no, Henry, they're filming it, and we're filming them. So we tried not to piss them off, but I can't say that we didn't.
No, you never pissed me off ever, but I let myself get anxious when you arrived. I remember that, just because the whole freedom to fail thing, and suddenly it may be different. But suddenly there was a bit of me like, shit, there's two really experienced filmmakers have just arrived on set. But the brilliant thing is, Andy has Harry Potter is real. Andy owns an invisibility cloak. You literally, we'd be moving on. We did 64 locations in a couple of weeks there, and we were moving so fast. And I was the unit driver and everything. And we were moving so fast. I go, Andrew, where's Andy? Where's Andy? We got to go. I don't want to leave. He said, don't worry about Andy. And then you'd see these shots he got, and you're like, how the fuck did he get those? And he'd have been up a tree, up on the top of a roof somewhere. It was like Spider-Man. But I sort of never knew where Andy was.
I don't think we had tripods.
But they both appear in Signs of Life as well. We got you in as supporting artists, didn't we?
That's right. Yeah. I've never asked David, actually, were we annoying you?
No, not at all. Like, it was, I think it was such a special, intimate shoot that I think a little bit of me went, I'm so glad this is being witnessed. Like, we didn't know how it was going to turn out, but there was like another perspective. For me it was already magical because we were documenting, even if the film, like if everything ended up on the cutting room floor, there was your version of what happened on those days.
Yeah.
The best way I can describe it is I was best man at my brother's wedding and I did a speech, but I thought nobody was recording this speech, which gave me a kind of amazing freedom, and my girlfriend actually filmed it, and now I adore that there is a version of that I didn't know about, and that's what it felt like. It felt like there was this magical thing happening. Like I hadn't seen this film until today, and some of those shots, like the shots from the bottom of the cliff that you got, Andy, are just incredible. And it was that, what it is that other perspective beyond what we're trying to do. You know, it was magical.
But also that one reason why I think I came back and thought I better make this black and white was because there are times in the film where we're just basically filming what Elliot's filming. So Elliot, the camera person, Joe's DOP, and I don't know if everybody's seen Signs of Life, but it's beautiful and it's gorgeous, and it's gorgeously graded by Elliot. So there was one sense was like there's times when the films are almost overlapping. There's a scene, you're on the bench and you're doing the stretching. We're kind of filming the film. So black and white was one way of making it feel like it was different. Actually, this was a separate thing. You know, all the time trying to. So when it was colour, you saw what they made, and the black and white was them thinking about making it real.
That's brilliant, genius.
So we've seen it up on the screen today, and looking back at the process, and now you have this fantastic final product. Is there anything that you could say that you maybe learned, first and foremost, about filmmaking during this project, but also about yourself during this project? And that's for everyone.
Well, personally, honestly, genuinely, I don't want to spare blushes, etc. But first of all, Joe was a genuinely inspirational figure for us because Andy and I was just at this sort of terrible transition point, really, where we have reached a certain age where it's like, oh, blimey, our old dog's going to have to learn new tricks. You know, we've actually got huge amounts of possibilities now to make films, but we're going to have to get hold of how do we get a budget? How can we get people to watch it? Actually, which is why we're very grateful to Romford, because the BBC aren't commissioning us. We were in this situation. Actually, it was a little bit kind of it's very post-COVID. It's like we were doing things, but so at the end of the 3 days with Joe's a very inspirational person to hang around with, that burst of energy. I then kind of came back and had this Zoom with some people in America that I knew, and I just thought, I'll just Millson the heck out of it. Yeah. So I went, we're going to make blah, blah, blah. And they actually got us the first commissions. We started doing the Notre Dame stuff. And off the back of that, we started getting other stuff. And now actually we're actually really busy, you know. So it was genuinely actually, wasn't just the filmmaking stuff. It was like Joe and SJ's thing of grow your own work, do your own thing, don't wait for a budget, don't wait for... It was sort of enacting that actually. That was, for me, the most powerful thing.
I think for me it was just a liberation really, because like usually in the past it was always big cameras, you know, and for this, because of Brexit, we weren't going to take anything in that's not the Carnet, so we just took 2 little Sonys, didn't we?
A7,
they were like a couple of lenses each, didn't bother with tripods, just all handheld. You had to do the sound. I've got too much respect to sound to let me anywhere near it. And it's just really nice working like that, you know, because we could just pitch up anywhere, couldn't we? You know, and it wasn't this. For us, it wasn't like a massive change. It was dead easy for me to go to the bottom of the cliff or the top of the cliff. Just keep an eye on it.
I think it did change the way, because we were still doing. We've had to get external funding to make BBC series. It's just been crazy. I think it did change. Because Andy and I worked together quite a lot of things since 1999, but it was a little bit. We were kind of stuck in an old way of get things shot exactly right and don't overshoot stuff and actually going to Lanzarote and coming back, and we sort of developed a new way of working, didn't we? Really? We just went, right, let's just shoot a lot of stuff simultaneously. I would do sound, Andy would go off somewhere and get the images, I'll stay with the humans and you do the visual stuff. And it kind of so that carried on really. So we did actually learn a lot of filmmaking stuff actually.
Amazing.
A few guys along the end?
And for me, it was, I think one of the things about doing a project where it's safe to fail encourages you to be bold, and Joe really did that. I remember, I think day 1 of filming, I had to film this scene where after running in the heat I get cramp, and I was just like, Jesus, Joe, this is too much, man. This is like the hammiest. This is. You were like, trust me, by the time we get to here in the film, we're going to need. This is exactly what we're going to need. And I remember coming away from the shoot going, make bold choices. You know, this is a bold decision to make this film. A bold decision to have a documentary crew, you know, filming what could be shite.
Be a shite documentary.
But, maybe that's a documentary you want to watch. But just be bold. And, you know, be bold, put it out there and see. You know, I think there's no point in playing it safe.
I'm having the most weird tangential thoughts at the moment. I've just realised, I don't know is the answer, is the truthful answer. I don't know what it brought me. I know what it took from me. But it gave me so much, I don't know where to begin. But what's weird is I've just realised people are being grateful to each other here. I worked with David first in 1998 or 7. One of those years, in a play in Watford. It doesn't get more glamorous than that. And I, you know, back then, it's very hard for people who weren't around then to understand quite how much you had to stay in your lane and stay in your box. It never cropped. So I made a weird decision to become an actor. For my family, it was the weirdest thing anyone had ever done. But I was an actor. I was getting paid to tit about in Watford. Amazing. In the dressing room one night, David was there. God, it wouldn't have been a laptop. Were you literally writing by hand?
Okay. No, it was an old laptop.
It was an old laptop, 1998 laptop. David was tapping away. I said, what are you doing? He He said, I'm writing a short film.
Wow.
I said, what? What do you mean? What? He was the first actor I'd ever met who wrote stuff. Now, I've been a poet all my teenage years, but I thought, well, I've got to put that away now because I'm an actor. And I read one, and it was fucking fantastic. And what happened to it? Anyway, that was actually a seed that grew, and it was another 6 years probably before I met another actor who also wrote or directed. And there are very few of them. Then I met one who wrote a novel. I was like, what the fuck? You were allowed to do this? So actually, it's just... And now I have a daughter, who you saw in the documentaries, in the film, is in this game, and she's 24, and she writes, directs, and acts, and she's like, well, of course you do it all. Whereas we had to stay in our boxes. So I don't know. I just think... I'm currently trying to gird my loins. I'm having trouble getting the money for my second film. And tonight has re-inspired me to remember what we did and to just not be afraid. I think I've got into that second film syndrome of trying to do it slightly more properly, and I'm sort of hereby declaring I'm going to go full sellotape and glue again. Just sellotape and glue. Yeah.
Shopping trolleys.
Yeah.
It's the difficult second album, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think what's apparent actually is all of us then, I didn't realise that with David, we were all jumping out of, or being thrown into boxes, or one more trapped in boxes. You were going from acting to directing, you were going from theatre to film, Andy and I were sort of going from being commissioned to just self-commissioning.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw out to the audience if we've got any questions. I know we've got one down the front here, but... Yeah, Julie?
Oh, got one up there. We can't see.
I really enjoyed your documentary, and I've actually seen Signs of Life 4 times because I saw it at the Romford Film Festival. Then I went to see it when it came out, and then I had to take 2 other friends separately to see it. And I thought it was a brilliant film. But for those people that will have seen the documentary but haven't seen the film, how can they see it now?
Well, if they have Amazon Prime, it's now free on Amazon Prime. So tell everyone if they have that, it's totally free there. Or you can rent it for rent it on Apple. So it's still occasionally popping up in cinemas. Unbelievable.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
It's best to see it on the
yeah,
screen.
it played in a cinema a few weeks ago, and I think there's definitely one more cinema screening in October, but it's on Prime.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and I have to thank Romford. Romford have been there all the way from The Magician played here, and won an award. Care played here. And then Signs of Life played here. Won an award. Did it? Yeah, it did it? Yeah, I can't remember. And then, amazing. So this has been a massive... In fact, the first ever cinema screening of anything we ever made was The Magician at Romford. Oh, wow. That was an insanely big night for us.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We also had a hand up. Yeah, well, did you have a question?
Oh, we've got one here, if not.
I found a question.
Come on.
Come on.
Hang on, we'll get one at the back and then we'll come back. Andrew's still there.
I saw Signs of Life here last year, and yes, just up here. Yeah, I saw Signs of Life when it was shown here last year, and I found it very intriguing. And it's interesting how you say it sort of came to you in a dream to an extent. Why did you decide to call it Signs of Life? And how many times did the storyline change, like maybe the ending changed or things like that, before you settled on the final script?
Thank you very much. It did have 2 other titles. It went through about 11 or 12 drafts of screenplay. It didn't change much. The titles were, interestingly, the first one was called The Witness, then it was called Stay, then Signs of Life. I can't quite remember, except there's been some weird kismet since. I promise you it went this way round. So I went, no, it's called Signs of Life. Now, my hero on planet Earth is Werner Herzog and David Lynch combined. I want to claim to be their bastard child. But it turned, I didn't know Werner Herzog's first feature was called Signs of Life until really recently. It blew my mind. And that he made a feature film on Lanzarote. One of the only other features made on Lanzarote was made by Werner Herzog, and it was brilliantly titled Even Dwarfs Started Small by Werner Herzog. It was shot on Lanzarote. It's a brilliant film. Anyway, but it didn't change much. It just got refined and refined and refined and refined. But really, the A4 sheet I wrote that morning I woke up didn't really shift. Yeah.
I had a question. On the subject of Herzog, actually, there was, obviously, Kevin mentioned earlier, there's been a lot of films made about filmmaking and about the behind the scenes of particular films. So Herzog made one about Fitzcarraldo. There's one about, a famous one about Apocalypse Now.
Yeah.
Do you have a favourite, any of you?
Well,
It's an amazing one. Kubrick's daughter made a film about The Shining.
Oh yeah, but that wasn't really
Behind the film.
that was just a project for her film course. She had to. It was an editing project. So she happened. I'll go visit Dad and just before there was behind the scenes. Minnie Kubrick was just hanging around at Elstree. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So if you want cheering up, it's only 18 minutes long, but watch the behind the scenes of The Shining, and Jack Nicholson's joy in his work is unbelievable. He is happy as a pig in shit. It's wonderful to see.
There's Lost in La Mancha, isn't there?
That's great.
Which is the exact opposite of what we did, because that's about somebody who completely fails to make a film.
Yeah, and American Movie is a great one, which is on YouTube in about 5 parts. It's just called American Movie. It is about a film that never got finished by a hopeless dreamer in Midwest America with not a pot to piss in like the late 80s. It's stunning. It's funny as fuck and really inspiring. Yeah.
It was actually your shoot was the exact opposite, wasn't it? I think you came in under budget, under time, or there was nothing.
It's still
we never
funny
saw
as
anything
fuck.
go wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
And piggybacking off that, is there any stories that you've heard about movies being made that were like torturous that you wish you could have been documentarians on that?
Oh my God.
Oh, there's so many. Yeah.
That's a brilliant. Well, I think Star Wars, they're going to become rich.
If we've got to start on your questions, if you've got a few. I mean,
This man's got about 20 million questions.
we promise we'll let you out soon.
I've even got a Dustin Hoffman story.
Oh, epic. Right.
I might tell you that after.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm like poets, so I speak quite loud. So, touching on poetry, I'm a writer and musician and all that, and I've got 11 short stories. I'll watch films and take them and think my stories about that. But what I was going to ask you is, the one thing I think is amazing about Sarah is her eyes and her expressions. She doesn't need to speak. Her face and eyes tell a million words. So if you see her, just
I will do.
touch me.
I won't say it, but you tell her. You'll see it before me.
David, I was going to ask you, when you're talking to silence, did you find that hard?
Yeah, I mean...
With no response, I mean, literally.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, film is a visual medium, so you're relying on what you see as an actor from the other person anyway. And we're always reading micro signals, but like this was that to the nth degree. I just had to try and read somebody who was trying not to give anything away.
A game of poker.
It was kind of like a game of poker, and for me that was super exciting. Sarah, I didn't know her prior to this. I've known Joe, since the late 90s, but I didn't know Sarah, and we kind of very deliberately didn't try and get to know each other much before the film, because that was going to be the journey. The journey was trying to read somebody who is trying desperately not to be read. And I loved that challenge, because we sort of do that 1,000 times a day, but very little depends on that. You see somebody looking at you on the tube, so what? Nothing, but it seemed this was a life or death situation for both of us. And that was the acting challenge that, excited me every morning in Lanzarote when we got up, was how is that going to play out today? Yeah. So it was unique. I haven't had to do it really. I did. I had to do the scene with the dog, where I was asking a dog for an answer or something, and it was just and it was a bit like that, the way we read into our pets and what they're thinking. You know, you might get it right, you might get it wrong. That's how it felt.
The other way around was, I know it was extremely difficult for Sarah Jane because we all get, as actors, we have tricks. We don't even realise we're doing them. There's a thing I must sort of do with scripts, with dialogue, that's sort of my thing, and she had her thing, and that was all taken away. It's just one interesting thing, because this isn't about Signs of Life, it's about Waking Slowly, but one interesting thing was, I didn't know this till we got cracking and got filming scenes. Sarah Jane's so extraordinarily good that I never had to worry about any take not being usable. But I realised very quickly, because she's reactive and she just follows her instincts, but she would look away sometimes, and I realised very early on, I went, shit, we have to have both her eyeballs every time we see her. We can't do profile if you have no dialogue, because we don't know what you're thinking with one eye. You actually, weirdly, I couldn't explain it to her, so what I do is always, we only had 2 or maybe 3 takes of every shot. I would let SJ do her take, and then I would say, for me, would you mind awfully doing one where you just look at him? Everything you've done is brilliant, we've got it, we'll probably use it, but would you do one where you, the same again, but just stay looking at him? If you do look away, don't look too far away. She'd be like, but she agreed. It turned out they were the takes we used every single time, because in the cut, in the edit, without 2 eyeballs, so I mean, if someone has an eye patch, just maybe you can live with one, but it was interesting, hard to read when she looked away.
When you did it, did you set out to make such a poetic movie? Because that's what comes across.
Oh,
that's why I love it deeply.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, 100%.
It's so
I think
poetic.
Both Waking Slowly and Signs of Life, we're not afraid to speak of what poetry fans we are, and so I've done a lot of Shakespeare, but I don't know any. Andrew knows Shakespeare by heart, the whole fucking canon. It's unbelievable. So yes, 100%. The joke was, and it's not a joke anymore, I'm out and proud, I sort of made a French film made by a Brit. I love French cinema and Turkish cinema, and I made, my homage to the Three Colours trilogy and whoever, all of my heroes.
Sorry to interrupt.
Please interrupt.
I keep asking them to bring French films. I just saw Breathless here, and I love Breathless.
Lovely.
I'm really getting into foreign films.
Lovely.
I've got a million. Can I just ask you one last question? I could be here all night. I love you guys.
Please do.
Is there any chance of putting that documentary with the film on a Blu-ray?
Oh wow! If only.
Or on Channel 4. On Channel 4 on the same night.
Yeah.
That's
Are you please write to anyone you know, because
that's a Kickstarter
these.
Right now.
Yeah. Well, I'm busy about to kickstart my next film. That's the Kickstarter. But DVDs. I want Signs of Life out on a DVD. We've got a great distributor. It's about to come out in America, but everyone it's just digital. Trying to get someone to do a DVD is so hard now.
I've just bought Misery, because I'm reading Stephen King on writing.
Oh, yeah.
Such a good book.
Yeah.
I should have read it 20 years ago, I'd be a better writer than now. But he was saying so much about what you need to do. So everybody goes with all the manuals and all that, and he just says, go with what you think.
Oh, yeah.
If it's uncomfortable, stick with it.
Oh, yeah. That's the good stuff.
God, I sound quite academic there. So I better shut up, because
Thank you.
they used to call me Jaws at work.
Thinking of art films, if you like, I remember just before, I sent you a couple of screen grabs. So I watched Pasolini, just the week before it's
God, it's all in there.
Yeah, the Gospel of St. Matthew.
Yeah.
And basically, I remember saying to Andy, we're going to go to Lanzarote, this might be something we could do. Because I don't know if you've seen it, but basically it's amazing films of amateur actors and so on, but Jesus is this sort of black robe character, and he has a small amount of disciples, and it's filmed in the desert, and they have these gigantic cliffs. There's just amazing landscapes, lots and lots of wide shots, and it's black and white, just really effective. So that was why, the very first shot almost, he got out the car, and Andy then went off to go and try and get those shots. So to go to the other side of where the cliff was and just get those little shots of the little figures. it felt like there was, I remember sort of talking to you about, there was something about this endeavour. The other film I'd seen was The Banshees of Inisherin. Again, small characters. And
big
we talked about, well, we sort of talked about time. So all of us, to be honest, no surprise, are in the latter end of our lives, I think. You get to a point where you realise you always known it. Well, certainly me. Anyway.
All right, yeah.
Andy's a nipper.
It's autumn. It's
Let me
definitely
talk about
autumn.
myself. You sort of realise you always know that the clock's ticking.
Yeah.
But it's ticking. And those clips of that sort of memory of millions of years of things that died, you know. There was that sense of let's try and do something while we can, really. So that, I remember saying to Andy, maybe we just get shots like that, whatever activities you're doing, there's a poetic thing about we're trying to do it before we all get swept away and just become another fossil, I guess.
Which was the whole reason we shot on Lanzarote, is the metaphor, so apposite for the subject, you know, it's a volcano. It's the most active of the Canary Islands. It looks like Mars, that place. It's unexploded bombs and all the landscape is bigger than us. It's all bigger than us.
So I've got
Thank you.
2 last questions for you. First of all, when you think about this whole endeavour from the start of Signs of Life right through to seeing Waking Slowly tonight, what 3 words come to mind about that whole process from each of you?
Can I say freedom to fail?
Hey!
That's genuinely
It's
true.
been said a few times.
Brilliant.
It's going on a t-shirt, by the way.
It's
Brilliant.
genuinely true. Is it Samuel Beckett? Fail again, fail better.
Yeah.
Yeah, freedom to fail. Sorry, Andy.
That's
that
good.
what everyone's going
I
for?
think that's good, yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
Okay, that sums up this Q&A.
Freedom to
And my last question, let's end this festival on an absolute blinder. It's one of my favourite questions I ever get to ask. You're all filmmakers, you're all creators, you love film, you've been through it your entire life, it's so amazing. But if you could go back and remake any one movie that you absolutely love, but only the lead character is human and everyone else is a Muppet, what film would you love to remake with the Muppets?
Midnight Cowboy.
Who's the human character?
I think we'll keep John Voight.
Keep John.
Yeah, because you've got to. Hey, Ratso! Ratso would be great.
Can I have David Ganly doing Signs of Life?
Yes!
Wow. And everyone else is
a Muppet.
Amazing. What I'd give.
Different movie.
It's your question.
Way more moving.
It's my gimmick.
That's your
We've
thing.
got 2 more we need.
One for the cuckoo's nest.
There you go.
I think Tootsie.
Miss Piggy?
Yeah, Miss Piggy. Yeah. Who played the agent? Do you remember in Tootsie?
Picturing Mel Brooks.
No. There's a brilliant scene at the Russian tea rooms when he sits beside his own agent and pretends to be a woman and doesn't. Yeah. Tootsie.
I think Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Oh, yeah. Who would you keep? Clooney?
I think I'd probably keep Clooney.
Okay. Yeah, or the goat.
I like the thought I could employ Clooney.
Very good.
Right, my friends, it's been an absolutely fantastic showing this year today. We are celebrating 10 years of Romford. 2027 incoming is the Muppet Festival. But thank you for submitting your movie to us. Thank you for letting us show it today. But most of all, thanks for being here.
No, thank you.
Can we get a round of applause?